Hi, welcome back to another video. I wanted to make this video because when people join this game, they don't really know what to do. They usually look at the best players and think that then they can't do it because they're not good enough. The best players usually practice hours and hours and hours in this game, so don't feel. I guess you shouldn't really feel bad if you can't do like these types of medium type towers. But this video is going to be helping the beginners really learn what to do when joining the sim. So when you first join in, you'll have this. You'll be put in here. So this is the ring select. You can press the arrow keys to go around. And I'll explain more about this later, but firstly you just want to press enter and go into this. It usually takes a long time to load because they want to check the badges thing, whatever. So when you go in here, the first thing you'll see, you won't have a bunch of difficulties like this green because you won't have beaten them. So you want to go into this one and beat this one first. There's some stuff I want to explain here. So this teaches you just basically how to jump. Still don't feel bad if it takes you a few tries to beat this, because even this, compared for a beginner hobbyist, will take you a while to beat. Also, don't do that. Do this. Even things like this are hard to beat because they're not what people are very used to when they're playing like mega fun hobbies and stuff all day. So usually the thing to explain about these towers is that they usually range to 1 to 10 floors, and and when you get to the end, there should be a sparkling wim pad that I'm probably gonna show when I do this. So the first thing I want to show you here, these are pushing platforms. So if you stand in the middle here and it moves like that, this thing will push you right off the platform and probably send you flying. So to do this, just walk, when it goes, just walk through it like that. It's not that hard. Oh yeah, and these things, so you just want to press, so you can do this different ways. You can go, just hold W, align your camera here, and just hold W, or you could do this and carefully tap so that you don't bounce on the thing so hard. You'll see these a lot. And you'll see these. Usually, in most games, they instant kill. But this game, they don't. They just drain your health a bit. But if your health gets too low over here, you can die. So be careful about that. Oh yeah, I need to explain something. So, this is a long jump. So to do long jumps, try and position your camera. Try and position your camera around like here. You don't. So that. Actually no, probably like here. So half your toe is forward facing this, and you're pointing sideways, so where you want to go. And then you hold W and space. Try that a few times, and you should be able to get the hang of it. But it really depends on what you want to go. There are different ways you can do those jumps. Like for example, you could do stuff like, you can go like D space, you can press it D space and then shift lock at the end, so you do. Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to play this game, you have to turn shift lock on. You can just turn it on here, and if you press shift, it will put you into this. So what this will really be used for is if you're trying to do long jumps like that, or it's useful for a lot of things, just for like being able to control your player properly so that you don't fall off in certain ways. You can also use it for like a little studs and stuff. Alright, you don't really see these much. Sometimes you see them. These are like jump pads. You just jump on them and they basically send you flying. Sometimes they can be a bit annoying and glitchy, but most of the time they won't be. Oh yeah, by the way, you could do the skip here, but don't do the skip yet because that's something I want to show in here. So these are tight ropes. Sometimes they're even thinner than this. So what you want to do is simply just get into first person like this. Have your cursor in the middle. So have your cursor, or if you're on mobile, I guess, just put the thing or go into shift lock. I'm not sure if that's possible. Like it shows the shift lock thing. And then point your camera like this. Alright, and what you want to, you just want to keep your you want to keep this cursor on the tightrope, and then you won't fall, and then you will never fall off. But if you don't do, because if you don't do that, see look, your feet are properly aligned here. But if you don't do that, you might like weird stuff might happen, like you might fall off. Well, I didn't show it well there, but most of the time that can happen. So just do that. So just keep your cursor on here like that, and stuff like, yeah, like that. But stuff like that can happen, and you can fall off like that. So that's why you should always do this. Keep your cursor on like that. All right. I don't even know if there is. No, there isn't even a speed. Oh yeah, these are balloons. Sometimes towers use. Alright, sometimes towers use these so that so you can get from platforms like this. So basically, all you do is never press space when you're in them, unless you don't want to press space when you're in them, because that would just make you fall instantly. So what you want to do is, when you have the balloon, you want to keep holding W until you're at the platform, and then either press space when you're at the platform, or just let it pop by itself. There's not really much to explain here since it's just darkness. Oh yeah, these are spinners. You should really be careful with these, because sometimes you don't want. Sometimes they have like a little thing, and then you think that you're gonna jump there, but you don't, and then yeah, they're pretty self-explanatory. These are these are tight ropes. So what you want to do is all you have to do is just hold jump, and then it brings you to the platform. You don't have to do anything. So these are like wobbling platforms. What you want when you're on jumps like these, you want to just hold space on them whilst you're doing them, so that it's faster. On easy towers, you don't really need to worry about these too much, because you can just hold space on them and they don't really do much. Or you can just take this jump and skip this part. Oh yeah, this stuff is more advanced. So, but I think beginners really need to know this stuff. So right here we have what you call a truss jump. So turn on shift lock, right? Align your camera, point your camera to like this position, and then jump on the thing. Oh yeah, another thing to mention, whenever you're doing obbies, always do it like in this bird's eye view sort of view rather than this, so it makes it a bit easier. Usually you do stuff like that because it's way easier to like know where you're going and stuff. It's a lot easier, trust me. So what you want to put your for this, you want to just put your camera here, jump on this, and simply just press D, or whatever direction you want to go. Just press the key you want to do for that. So just hold it and press D like that. It's really simple. Oh yeah, or you can press like you can hold W and D and do it like that. It's a bit slower, and sometimes you may need to do this on like ladders. Alright, this is a wraparound. You see, you can do most people want to do wraparounds either like this. Yeah, I see everyone doing that when they. I see everyone doing the ladders like that when they first start playing the game. I mean, wraparounds like that when they first start playing the game. So you want to get into the habit of doing them more like. Wait, if I can get to the part more like this. Because the reason why that is because usually wraparounds this one's quite easy, right? But they can get really, really thick, and you don't want to. And it's much harder to do a wraparound like that on a really thick stud. In fact, it's almost. I think it's pretty much impossible to do say a 10 stud wraparound. So you really want to align yourself like this, and then do that. How I recommend you do these is that firstly, you want to get into a position like this, get into like a 45-degree angle, sort of like this, pointing away from the thing. And then when you do the wraparound, you hold whatever direction you want to go outwards, and then press space, and then turn your camera in like that. It's pretty hard to learn them for the first try, but when you get the hang of them, it'll be really, really easy, trust me. these you don't really need to worry about anymore because they've got patch. All you have to do is just press F for these. In some games they'll make you do that. They have the script where they fix it, but these things are called corner clips. They were patched ages ago. On Roblox ages ago, so you can just press F to do them. Yeah, don't worry about wall hops for now. So if you want to know how to do wall hops, essentially you just have to flick like this, or you can press a greater than or less than key. So and then it gives you like that, and then you do something like that. But I don't think if you're a beginner you should worry about these. So this tower is useful for teaching you a lot of stuff. This tower is useful for teaching you things. So once you finish that, just come here and you can press this, and here's a little shortcut for beating the tower, and then boom, you beaten it. You don't really need to do any of this stuff. This won't really. I don't think this really helps you. And then you've done the tower, basically. So one more thing I need to explain is this thing right here. So when you see this, this will be pretty confusing. It explains the thing here, what each of these difficulties are. So say green is like the easiest, then it goes medium, difficult, etc, etc, and then the hardest being at the top, for example. This game loves to use acronyms. So you hear, like, instead of people saying Duke's Towers of Hell in the game, they'll say JToh instead, and the game title even says it. So for example, a classic example of this is a TOM, for example. TOM is Tower of Madness. So and TOA is Tower of Anger, TOAST is Tower of Annoyingly Simple Tries. They're just acronyms. They basically just take the first name of each letter. I don't really need to explain what acronyms are. And then you have the 4 difficulties on the top, which are the hardest difficulties that people barely ever beat. People rarely beat well, not rarely beat these. There's a lot of people that have beaten them, but they are very, very hard. And when you're a first player, you're gonna be like, I want to do that first, but like you don't really want to do that first because that's really hard for you at the minute. So don't try and do that first. Try and do something. Definitely just do these 3 towers to start off with. And I see a lot of people just going into like these harder towers and then getting demotivated then leaving. So you don't want to do that. Even if you are, me personally, it took me a few hours to beat this tower, even with a bit experience with obbies before. So these towers can take you a long time to beat. I mean, not a long time, really, really long time, but they can take you a while to beat. You just need to work on improving. This game is all about consistency, so you just want to work on improving your consistency a lot more, right? So yeah, that's pretty much done. So another thing I want to talk about is sub-realms. So you probably don't know what those are if you just first started playing this game. They're essentially just they're essentially just like, not towers, but like they're essentially just places in the game, like similar to these rings that you're in, like say ring 1, you're in ring 1 right now. This is like a proper place, but like they have like sub-realms. I don't know, I'm not sure how to explain them exactly. They're basically just like mini like rings with mini towers and stuff. With like mini towers called steeples. These steeples are essentially towers. You know how I said towers are usually 1 to 5 no, 1 to 10 floors. Yeah, steeples are 1 to 5 floors usually. They're usually basically half the tower, and they give you half a tower point. If you're wondering what tower points are for, so I'll show you what tower points are for right now. Beginning, I forgot to explain how this game really works. So you can complete towers to unlock new areas in the game essentially. So when you do that, you see this thing here. You probably can't go into. When you're a beginner, you can only go into one of these. So when you're in the ring select. Oh yeah, another thing too. There's also these zones. This is called the spatial system. You don't want to go into the spatial. I don't recommend beating any of these towers when you're a beginner, because these towers are absolutely horrible and they're a lot longer than a lot of the ring towers, and I think the ring towers are a lot better for beginners. So I recommend trying to progress through these rather than the zones. So before we get onto tower points, I mean, not before. Let's just get into them now. So tower points are basically just the things required to actually beat the ring, to actually unlock a new ring. For example, so I have on my main account I have 74, including steeples and stuff. If you hover over, it tells you the exact towers you've actually beaten. The exact tower. So it's a bit confusing. Towers and tower points are a bit different. So the towers are basically how many towers you've beaten, and steeples you've beaten. And steeples only give half a tower point. So technically, I only have this many tower points. So when you have for example, when you have this many. For this one, it will always tell you the requirements for beating each tower. So for example, extract 4 positive energy from World 1. That just means beat 4 towers in World 1, essentially. Or get 4, not beat 4 towers, but get 4 tower points in World 1. And then you have to beat a medium tower. So beat Tower of Madness, for example, and then you have this requirement. And then just keep looking at the requirements to see how many things you need to beat to progress into each ring. And now we can actually start getting into the actual skill part of the game to actually get started. So I've already told you about wraparounds and tight ropes, and what else did I say? I talked about wall hops and stuff, but you don't really need to worry about wall hops. If you're a beginner. There's 2 types of flicking. There's shift flicking and there's manual flicking. So I usually do shift flicking because it's a lot easier for me and more consistent than manual flicking. You can do either. So for shift flicking, all you do is just press shift and then D, shift and then D, shift space D. So something like this, shift space D. And you have to press, by the way, you have to press shift and space at the same time. So you press shift and then press D after. But you want to do it relatively at the same time. So you'll get used to this eventually. It sounds hard, but when you do it, it's not difficult. You can get the hang of it really, really easily. Another thing too, you have to be on the side. Your camera has to be at the side, pointing like this. You could also do like this thing. I don't recommend you do it like this. This is a lot harder to actually get the hang of. I just recommend you do it like this for now, because this is all you really need for now. Another thing is manual flicking. So you usually you stay in shift lock, right, and then do something like this. But in this instead, so you do the same thing. You do the same thing as shift flicking, but instead of shift, you have to flick your camera. You have to flick your camera like this whilst pressing space. So like that. You have to press flick it. So basically flick in space at the same time instead of. You have to flick in space at the same time instead of shift in space. So that can be really annoying. To get the hang of. That's why I recommend you just shift. You try and do this because it's much easier. Oh yeah, this is an example of why wraparound. You should try and do wraparounds like this, because you can't really. It's a lot harder to try and do a wraparound like that. A lot harder to just try and do a wraparound like that. Right? It's better. So that's why it's better just to try and do wraparounds like this. Oh, by the way, if you're looking to this as an SC one day, this tower is very good for getting you better at trusses. Anyway, let's get into the next thing. We're talking about ladders. You should probably learn to do this one here. So essentially, it's pretty easy, honestly. So you can either flick up like this, which is a lot harder, or you can press W in space and then W again. So you go like that. Really simple. Jump. You usually won't get head hitters as hard as this one, so you just want to for example, if you wanted to do a head hitter like this, you just want to go stick your toe out like this, sort of like a long jump, like you just saw in the long jump, and then hold S and then shift lock, So hold S space, shift lock. There's no other way I can explain that without that being hard. You really just need to get used to this. You'll get the hang of it eventually. Just try practice doing these jumps like that. Just practice doing the jump like that. We should be good. Now for slightly more advanced players. If you've beaten a challenging and you want to try do your first intense, this practice place can help you do that. As you basically just go into here, figure out. Most people just try and doing your first intense of the Great Inferno because it's much, which is World 1. It's much better. The towers are much better in my opinion, and they're a lot better. This one you can do. I recommend you do Impossible Expectations or Holy Flip or something, because they're a lot better. Also, you can do Remorseless and also Soul Crushing Towers, but if you're this high in the difficulty chart, I don't think you're really following along this video since you'll probably be beyond most of this stuff. And there we have it, the first addition of this beginner guide series. I'm probably gonna do one for more advanced players trying to get into soul crushings later. Just to recap, this is what you get to get in the sub realm. So if you've unlocked the sub realm, this is like the orb you can click to basically enter those. And there's also one here as well. So you want to, I'd say, unlock maybe this ring before going into before going to zone 1. And as for first intenses, do them straight after I'd say do them just straight after doing your first challenging. And for Remorseless, at least I think you should beat 3 intenses before you actually beat a Remorseless tower. And soul crushings, well, that really depends, because you can spend a long time doing these SCs, and you can spend a long time doing these SCs and beat like it a long time, or you can do like a few Remorseless towers and do the SC quickly. Me personally, I did three Remorseless towers: Eternal Suffering, True Skill, and Niflheim, and I surprisingly beat my first SC in a week, which is really good. So maybe that's a good option for you as well. Anyways, bye.